Our boy is president again. He's up there wrecking shop every day, saying whatever half-witted drivel comes into his rotting brain, sending the National Guard into Los Angeles, taking direct control of Washington, D.C., weaponizing the Justice Department, turning ICE into even more of a Gestapo tribute act than it was already. And me, I've just been watching the show. These last 7 months, I felt like the producer of a Broadway musical. Now that it's open and running, I can just stand back and enjoy what I created in all its epic, undeniable awfulness. Oh, let's keep the fact that I'm a fan of Broadway musicals just between us. I wouldn't want that to get out. Anyway, the show's running, and we're running it, and everything's just the way I like it, and I must admit, it's been even easier than I thought it would be. I know we've managed to strip them of a great deal of their institutional power, but even so, I thought the Democrats would put up more of a fight when we started really bearing down on the whole setting fire to the Constitution, imposing authoritarianism, intimidating the media, eviscerating science, and gaslighting the entire world deal. But what have the Democrats done? Statements of disapproval? Strongly worded letters. Ooh. But see, that brings me around to why I'm talking to you now. I have a question. It's a simple question, but I do need an answer. Gavin Newsom, what the fuck do you think you're doing? You've been making these social media posts, all caps, mimicking our boy's style, mocking his style. You've gotten some of the commentators and podcasters and pundits on our side to attack you, to call you sophomoric, say that those posts and the way you talk about other politicians is boorish and undignified and unbecoming of an elected official. And I guess you think you're so clever, huh? Oh, look at me, I'm Gavin Newsom. I'm imitating the president and getting all his supporters to call me an asshole. Guess that means they're admitting the president's an asshole too. Congratulations. You outwitted some conservatives. Very impressive. Here's the thing though, Gavin. You outwitted yourself too. Sure, you tricked some of our puppets on Fox News and Twitter into saying that our guy's act is embarrassing and unstatesmanlike. But do you think any of them care? Go ahead, show what a double standard they're abiding by. It's not going to make any difference. If they had any shame, they wouldn't be on Fox News in the first place, buddy. More to the point, do you think any of our voters care? Most of them are too clueless for their own hypocrisy to even register. Even if it does, do you think it's going to have any effect other than making them even more pissed at you? And even more determined to elect our guy to a third term? In their eyes, you're a degenerate Democratic governor of a lawless state that makes itself a sanctuary for Latin American gang members and child molesters and communists. And you're making fun of their president. You think they're going to listen to you? They're not going to listen to you. They're going to listen to me. Because I never tell them that they're wrong. I guess you think, what? You're holding up a mirror to the MAGA movement? They're going to see you pretending to act like our guy, and they're going to have a moment of clarity and realize what they've been supporting this whole time? Moments of clarity are for recovering alcoholics. Does the current voting base of the Republican Party really strike you as an in-treatment group of people? Look at who are our most vocal and stalwart supporters. Creationists, anti-vaxxers, climate change deniers, Holocaust deniers, flat earthers. Oh, did I say supporters? I meant to add, and administration officials. Hold up a mirror to them. Know what they'll see? Whatever they want to see. That's not all you're doing, though, Gavin. You're not just trying to humiliate our guy by jacking his style in some tweets. You're calling our bets, too, aren't you? Trying to, anyway. We gerrymandered Texas to squeeze out 5 more congressional seats, and now you're trying to do the same thing for your side in California. So you not only lift our guy's gimmick, you also copy our game plan. You play dirty to match us playing dirty, but all it does for you, at best, is keep your side from losing even more ground. And I say at best because you haven't even done anything yet. You've got a new district map on the ballot for November because you democratically minded saps over there on the left coast decided you didn't like gerrymandering a few years ago, and you took the power to draw district maps away from the legislature and gave it to an independent commission. Which means your big plan to thwart our big plan relies on the voters seeing things your way and showing up for a special election. Counting on the liberals and the leftists to turn out on election day, huh? How'd that work out for you last time? I'll let you in on a little secret. I've already got our main talking point to use to get out the vote against your district map ballot proposal. Know what it is? Check this out. California Democrats are trying to thwart the will of the people. I think it's a winner. See? We don't give a fuck. Our people are never going to see themselves for the frightened, easily led marks that they are. And they're never going to see you as anything other than an anti-American lefty who wants to take their stuff and give it to a Mexican. They're going to keep looking at us and seeing none of our flaws, and looking at you and seeing flaws that aren't even actually there, because that's how I trained them. This is my circus, and they are my monkeys. It doesn't matter what you say to try and convince them that you're not a threat to them. I see you trying, though, going on podcasts, talking with some of our top mouthpieces, reassuring everyone that, hey, you're not some elitist. You're just a regular old-fashioned American. You're not a radical. Heck, you think some of this woke stuff has gone too far, too. You say it's unfair for trans women to compete in women's sports. You have the cops in California break up homeless camps. Who are you trying to impress? You think you can show me how tough you are by throwing your own people under the bus? Motherfucker, I invented that. You really want to get into a who can fuck over poor people the worst contest with me? And let me ask you this. If someone is so against trans people that they'll decide who to vote for based on that, whose side do you think they're going to pick? How many trans haters from our side do you figure you can peel off? What about the people who are already on your side, the ones who are trans themselves, or who care about the rights of trans people for reasons which I assure you are unfathomable to me, but then again, I can't fathom why anybody cares about anyone or anything other than what they have to gain. But what about them? What's going to keep them on your side after you've shown them how disposable they are to you? People on your side are a lot more sensitive to that sort of thing. If you don't have their back, why should they have yours? Because you're better for them than us? You're counting on them to keep voting for your side because they're scared of the other side? There you go, stealing our shit again. I'll admit, you did catch us a little off guard when you started going on the offensive recently. That's our fault. We're just so used to you Democrats rolling over and taking it. You made us look weak. You made us look silly. We've come back from that before. Have you seen the guy we elected president? Weak and silly, we can work with. I know you smell blood in the water, Gavin, because our guy is so unpopular. Shit, our whole party is unpopular. Very unpopular. Historically unpopular. With people who don't vote. That's your problem. You still think this is a popularity contest. It's not. It's not a boxing match either. It's a bar fight. There are no rules. Some of the suckers on your side still think there are, but I know better. I know I don't need people to like me. Hell, people can hate me. That's fine. What are they going to do about it? Vote for you? I'm a fascist, Gavin. I'm a white supremacist. I'm rounding up immigrants and shipping them off to foreign prisons. I'm militarizing cities. I'm rewriting history. I'm doing everything I can to destroy democratic institutions and any remaining semblance of equal rights for minority groups. You're fighting to win elections. I'm fighting to end elections. And there are still people on your side who would rather talk about what's wrong with you than what's wrong with me. I'm not telling you all this because I want you to change your tactics, or I want you to smarten up and realize that you should be reaching out to people on your side instead of mine. This isn't some boneheaded iron sharpens iron, I wish I had some real competition deal. I don't want real competition. I'm even bored with fake competition at this point. I just want to take over. I just want to crush every last one of you motherfuckers under my boot. And I am well on my way. I'm walking around with my dick out, pissing in everyone's faces, while you and most of your fellow elected Democrats are still afraid to publicly say the words trans rights or free Palestine. That's why I'm telling you this, Gavin. Because I want you to give up. Stop struggling. You're a good-looking guy with nice hair, a smarmy smile, and a smooth line of bullshit. I see how you found your way to this line of work. And I know what you would probably say in response to all this. You're only tweeting like our guy to make a point. You're only gerrymandering California in response to us doing it in Texas. You're a progressive who supports voting rights and labor rights and equal rights, despite your willingness to sucker punch certain groups for political reasons. And historically, Democrats are much better for the economy than Republicans. All of which is true, but none of which really matters. Because you guys have allowed people like me to control the conversation for so long. You've been fighting back, which is more than I can say for most of you Democrats, liberals, leftists, progressives, whatever you want to call yourselves. But how'd you choose to fight back? By acting like me. If your show's gonna be that much like mine, why would anyone bother changing the channel?
Man, oh man, oh man, let me tell you, I am livid right now because basically we have ushered in fascism based on a pack of lies. And what I mean by a pack of lies is them saying that there are blue cities that need the National Guard there while completely ignoring the idea that there's red states. And when confronted about this, the regime said, crime's not that bad in red states. No matter what facts that you try to bring, it's just going to completely get dismissed. Welcome to ViperTV Live. How's it going out there in Radio Land? God damn it, I'm pissed off today. I don't know. There's just something about the 2A bros who decided that, you know, what they stood for actually was just, it wasn't like, don't tread on me. It's like, tread on them instead. Josh Zachariah Ellis wrote something, and I normally don't read things verbatim, but this is true. America's in serious trouble. I think y'all need to be prepared for next year to be when things go off the rails, because I think there's no universe in which Trump and the GOP accept midterm losses, which seem pretty likely now. They're doing everything that they can to game the elections, if not outright rig them, and nobody's going to stop them because doing that would require direct confrontation, probably physically. And the Democrats are still deluded enough to think that they're going to prevail in the courts, and that prevailing in the courts will stop a party that simply ignores court orders because there's nobody to enforce them. So they're trying desperately to redistrict and do all the usual dirty tricks, and also get rid of mail-in voting and find ways to disenfranchise anyone they think won't vote for them. But I think enough Americans may finally be scared and pissed off enough to show up at the ballot box in 2026 anyways. And that's when it's going to get ugly, because they won't accept any loss to any Democrats. They'll challenge every single vote where a Democrat wins, or they'll just declare outright that the federal midterm elections are all fraudulent and deny the outcome. And then what do? How do you deal with that? Do the newly elected representatives and the senators just show up to the Capitol? What happens when the Trump-controlled DOJ denies them entry? Well, because that'll 100% happen. Why? Because I have nothing to fear by doing it, sure. I mean, file a motion in a circuit court and wait months for it to be on the docket. Ooh, much less decided. And if a judge decides against them, who enforces that? When every single person in the DOJ leadership has made it clear that the only law that matters is Trump's whims. America's on the verge of either a total collapse of democracy or a full-bore civil war. The difference will come down to whether American lawmakers and citizens would rather avoid violence or not. Everything they've been doing has been testing the waters to see how hard the citizenry will push back. The violation of posse comitatus, by putting soldiers in the streets to do policing. I mean, that's what posse comitatus means. I mean, there's the ICE raids, all of it. And nobody's pushed back sufficiently enough to make them think anything will happen when they deny the results of the 2026 midterms, other than late night talk shows, like making better and more impassioned speeches than Democratic lawmakers and people marching. They don't care about marches. All they have to do is find the weirdest looking people at any protest and plaster their pictures up on Fox News. And that third of America will just laugh at the stupid woke hippies, soy boys, and cat ladies. And if liberals do what conservatives did on January 6th, they'll just mow them down and call them thugs and terrorists. So they don't care about consistency nor hypocrisy. And that's what most Americans don't seem to understand. They don't care if they sound like hypocrites or liars or crazy, as long as half the people buy their bullshit and the other half just tut and wag their fingers at them. Why would they care? Being exposed as a hypocrite only matters if you require people to believe that your integrity is to get what you want, and that they don't require that, man. Like, integrity is an internal thing that good people have. You don't give a fuck when it comes to power. You know what I mean? Like, hell, half of Trump's base knows he's a rapist who fucked teenage girls, and all of them know he's a liar and a fraud, but they don't care. He's a claymore mine in the fronts towards the people that they hate. And that's the thing. You can solve with Supreme Courts or principled cops. A very large percentage of Americans are bloodthirsty, bigoted fascists who want to fight because they think they'll win with minimal resistance. And then they get to punish anyone they think deserves to be punished, to get rid of everyone they want to get rid of, and not even have to pretend that they care about fairness or balance or the rule of law, regardless of who it is applied to. Basically, there's a lot of dark spaces that I study, and one thing that it does seem to be a little bit of a shift is that they're starting to see that the Republicans have lied to them, but only in the fact that they're not doing anything for straight white men. Like, they want the fucking day of the rope, okay? Like, if you're familiar with the Turner Diaries, it's what they want, and they're not getting it. So they're unhappy. So they're basically saying, like, the Groypers and everybody is, don't vote. Just don't vote. Hey, don't vote. That's fine with me. But this is the problem, is they've never cared. But before they twist themselves into like logical and ethical knots to get around the idea that all people are equal and everyone deserves to have like justice applied equally, now they won't even have to do that. 2026 will be so much worse than 2025 because it'll probably be remembered as the moment when the Republic either self-corrected or ended in all but name. Trump's a fifth-rate Timu Caesar at best. But the midterms are going to be this Rubicon. We're going to see if we're going to cross it. I mean, if the American people allow it to be, if not, this will be his Waterloo. Only Americans decide which. But they'd better decide now, because defending the Union is going to take strategy and actual big balls, friends. Not just the kind that get beat up in Washington, D.C. You know what I mean? But I got a clip for you. I'm not sure if you know who Mark Elias is, but Mark Elias is probably one of the biggest defenders of democracy we have going on right now. And he went on Brian Tyler Cohen's show, and they started discussing what I was saying earlier about, okay, well, there's all these crime-ridden blue cities. What about the red ones?
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we have some excellent reporting from your outlet, Democracy Docket, where we all know that there was news that 6 Republican states have now opted to send their National Guard into Washington, D.C., and those states are West Virginia, South Carolina, Ohio, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. So Democracy Docket, your outlet, then asked those governors how they would feel if other states would send troops into their states to deal with their crime problems. And so can you explain what happened when you asked these Republican governors how they would feel if the roles were reversed?
Yeah, it turns out that these governors who were all happy to issue press releases and be tough guy when it came to sending National Guard into other states, they didn't want to talk to Democracy Docket about their own state. The only one who even bothered to respond was a spokesperson for Governor Mike DeWine, and their answer was, frankly, just a bunch of sort of gobbledygook. But the spokesperson.
Oh, that's super interesting that they have no problem sending the National Guard to blue cities, but when asked what would happen if blue state governors sent the National Guard to red states, all of a sudden it's crickets. It's almost like this idea of turnabout being fair play. It just doesn't exist because, I mean, you saw what happened with Texas, the fucking way that they're drawing the maps just to try to give themselves some more seats. And then when California does it, all of a sudden it's like this cardinal fucking sin. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, just the absolute hypocrisy, the shameless hypocrisy. It's really enough to make you crazy.
People for Jeff Landry of Louisiana, Tate Reeves of Mississippi, Henry McMaster of South Carolina, Bill Lee of Tennessee, and Patrick Morrissey of West Virginia. They just didn't respond at all. So all of a sudden, you know, having been big tough talkers about D.C., when it came to, hey, how'd you like it if National Guard are deployed in your state, they kind of quieted up.
Can you speak about the irony of their silence in the face of this question, given the fact that, you know, when it comes to DC's crime rate, it's actually eclipsed by the crime rates in some of these cities in these red states?
Yeah, that was actually the impetus for asking them, right? I mean,
So if you haven't caught any of the press conference that Trump was doing today with his round table, his cabinet, if you will, of course, they say that the numbers are fake, that those numbers are made up. They're basically going to completely lie in every single way that they can to justify this takeover, because the idea of facts actually goes against any narrative that they have. They're looking for the most transparent reasons to do a full-on power grab.
Some of these governors have cities in their states with much, much higher crime rates. You know, the DC crime rate is not the lowest in the country, but it is by far and away not the highest in the country. This is something you have talked about repeatedly on your YouTube channel, and so we thought it was important to ask them. And the fact that they are such tough talkers when it comes to Washington, D.C., and so silent when it comes to themselves is like reminiscent of J.D. Vance, you know, hanging out behind the Secret Service at Union Station saying how scared he is to walk outside.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, what is it about, like, part of conservative dogma is to always, like, talk about what a strong person you are, but then also, like, brag about being the biggest pussy ever that gets scared about everything and is constantly offended by everything. Have you noticed that part of the fascist like dogma in every single fashion, whether it's with yourself or with your enemies, is the enemy is strong but weak, or you are strong but weak? Like, you know, you're strong, but, you know, you have the ability to be a victim, and, you know, your enemies, they're strong, but they're weak enough that, you know, they're mentally unfeeble, or, you know what I mean? Like it keeps them in the role of being the hero. You know, the idea of being the hero bot, like no matter what, you know, always either the victim of something or need to be, you know, the triumphant one in any situation, or both at the same time, depending on who you are.
Hegseth, you know, same thing. Like, you know, all of these Republicans are super tough talkers. You know, they talk about being alpha males, right, and they're going to have push-up contests, and they're going to, you know, send in the military.
But God forbid they have to. But God forbid they have to step out their front door, walk off the stoop in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, right. They're petrified little children.
Yeah.
And the same with these governors. These governors are tough talking about deploying the National Guard, but when it comes to telling their own constituents the truth, right? When it comes to saying, hey, we actually have a bigger crime problem here in our state, so maybe we should do this here, they don't want to talk about that.
Well, this was excellent reporting by Democracy Docket. I'm going to put the link to Democracy Docket right here on the screen. For those who are looking for fearless, independent journalism, this is a great outlet. It's something that I use on a daily basis. That was the impetus for this video right here. So I'm going to put that on the screen and in the post description as well. If you're not yet subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. Mark, this is similar to a different story that's in the news right now, and that is that Donald Trump is now looking to deploy the military not just in LA, not just in Washington, D.C., but 19 states in total. And so can you talk about the dangers that are posed by virtue of kind of normalizing America to this idea that the military is going to be a constant presence on the streets?
Look, Donald Trump wants to put the military on the streets in every blue city in the country for two reasons. Number one, it makes him feel tough. Right? He feels like that's what autocrats do. And by the way, he's right. That is what autocrats do.
Yeah.
And by the way,
By the way, speaking of quote unquote what autocrats do, hey, have y'all seen that it's being talked about that there's going to be a fucking giant statue erected in Washington, D.C.? Yeah, exactly.
Cowards do is if they're in the legislature of the same party, they stay silent. So, John Thune and his caucus and Mike Johnson and his caucus.
I was also thinking about what I saw today. There's a viral clip going around because the regime had a bit of a brain fart live on camera, and he said, people are calling me a dictator. And then he said there's some people that are saying that a lot of people are saying that they want a dictator. And now notice this whole, it's always a lot of people or my friend or, this, that, and the other. We can just use fucking anecdotes apparently just to make law. And I don't know, man. The lie is so blatant and it's so transparent. And I think that's the most infuriating part, is because anybody with a brain can see right through the bullshit, knowing that this is false justification to announce a police takeover. But he straight up said there are people that want a dictator, and he's like, well, I don't think I'm a dictator, but people said, but here's the thing, bro. If you're saying you're not a dictator, if you have to constantly say that, I got news for you.
Don't say boo about what Donald Trump is doing. But Donald Trump is doing, number one, because he wants to be an autocrat. But number two, and I'm just going to shout this at the top of my lungs or maybe whisper it, I don't know. He's putting the troops, he's putting the National Guard, he's putting federal law enforcement, he's flooding them into these blue cities because when we get to the 2026 elections, he wants them in place. Donald Trump does not believe in free and fair elections. He does not want free and fair elections. He keeps talking about various ways.
I just said that already. Yeah, there's going to be a reason that he wants to try to get rid of mail-in ballots, because it's easier to intimidate people at the polls with soldiers. He got all of these ideas from Putin because it's exactly what Putin does. Obviously, as I love to say, the fash can't original, but he literally wants to run our elections the way that Russia is run. God damn it, MAGA. You voted for this shit because apparently eggs were too expensive, but now everything's more expensive and gets more expensive daily, and we got the military on our streets. Well done. All you 2A bros decided you just wanted to become ICE agents. When don't tread on me, it was tread on them instead.
There not to be free and fair elections, whether it is what he's done in Texas, whether it is the fact that he says that he wants to do with mail-in voting, the fact that he said that he thinks that Republicans, if he gets his way, can gain 100 seats. Well, how the hell is he going to get 100 seats? The only way he's going to gain 100 seats is by taking over the counting and the tabulation of ballots. By the way, that language is directly from his social media post. He said he believes the states are his agents in the counting and the tabulations of ballots. And so one of the ways you take over all these things, Brian, is by deploying massive federal resources, including federalizing the National Guard and putting them in these blue cities. This is a 5-alarm fire facing our democracy, and the legacy media finds every damn excuse it can to cover something other than this. I think the Washington Post just had a headline about how, Donald Trump always wanted to be a mayor, and now he's essentially the mayor of Washington, D.C. I mean, give me a fucking break.
Yeah. Where do we stand in terms of any lawsuits that might preclude Trump's ability or limit Trump's ability to be able to deploy so freely the military into American cities?
Look, you were really early on this, in part because you care about this issue and you care about democracy, but also because you live in L.A. We saw this first in L.A., and L.A. is the test case. Yeah. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, kudos to him for this. I mean, I can give him a lot of props for what he's doing about redistricting as well. But he said, I'm not going to allow this to happen in my state, in Los Angeles, without a court fight. So Gavin Newsom himself is a plaintiff, is the lead plaintiff in a case challenging what we are seeing in Los Angeles that is now going to spread like wildfire every place else. There was a trial. Democracy Docket covered that trial. We are awaiting a decision from the trial court. And this is for all the marbles, because if he can get away with this in a city the size of LA, with the lack of a predicate for it, right? I mean, what we saw in LA were, as far as I could tell, very isolated disorder.
And that's the thing. It's the lack of predicate that is so disturbing, because they just make up a fucking predicate to do it. But like I said, once more, you point out that red states have higher crimes, or that blue governors could send in the National Guard to red states. All of a sudden, it's either crickets or you're subverting the will of the people. The whole bully, coward, victim thing, it runs through the entirety of fascism.
Largely because of ICE raids.
Correct. In direct response to his own incitement. So he basically created some very tenuous predicate for him to be able to then respond with an escalation. And that's what he did by sending in these troops.
Yeah, and in that case in LA, there is no factual dispute that the Los Angeles Police Department was more than equipped to handle whatever law enforcement needs there were. And if they didn't have the resources, which, again, there is no dispute that they did, but if they didn't, then the state of California had other police at its disposal that could have provided backup. So there wasn't a need for what Donald Trump did other than to create an excuse to do so. So Gavin Newsom has brought this to court. We are waiting on the judge to rule. And if Gavin Newsom loses this, then I won't say all hope is lost, because I never believe in all hope is lost. There's always live to fight another day. But man, it's going to be hard to find a better set of facts than he has in California. But again, the fight will go on. But I'm hoping that he wins that case, because then that will be a big impediment, particularly if that goes up to higher courts and creates precedent that is more binding.
Well, especially when we see, remember we saw on the other episode that I did maybe a couple days ago, certainly before the raid train, but the video of ICE saying liberals already ruined the country. And that goes to show that everything that they do is politically motivated. And I don't see how that can't be used to set precedent in a court case.
Elsewhere, but that'll be a big case.
So just specifically on that case, because I know that there was an effort to get some preliminary injunction that would immediately eject these National Guard troops from Los Angeles. They lost that effort. Governor Newsom lost that effort. So does that kind of signal something? Does that offer some prediction as to how the judge might rule now that they're in the actual trial over this thing?
Look, you always prefer to win preliminary relief when you're seeking permanent relief. So, I'm not going to spin that. But one of the things that you as a lawyer have to always trade off in seeking preliminary relief is that you're not going to be able to put on a full evidentiary record, right? What do I mean by that? If you seek a preliminary injunction, you are going to a judge on an expedited basis, and you're saying there is this emergency that you have to rule on now. And by definition, that means the court is not going to hear live testimony. You're not going to have depositions. You're not going to have expert testimony. You're not going to have a full presentation of the facts. The judge is going to have to decide it on the law and sort of a much, much more limited factual record. That's the downside of preliminary relief. So in this case, the trial judge actually ruled in favor of the governor, and then the Ninth Circuit reversed. And this is going to be now positioned by the trial judge for the Ninth Circuit on a full evidentiary record. And it is not unusual to lose a preliminary injunction where you have to show that you are likely to win on the merits, but also you have to show that it's in the public interest that the judge rule in your favor on this sort of very expedited basis. And that's a higher burden than you have after a full trial.
One of the reasons I really like Mark Elias is he can break it down because, man, like, the ability for the regime to use the Roy Cohn tactic of call a loss a win, declare victory in public no matter what, has really, really got a lot of people twisted, because cases that they've lost, they've declared victory on. So there's just this general idea of what is real, what is factual. And with, when that starts to be the general idea and opinion of the population, they're extremely easy to manipulate because they don't know what's truth. That's one of the reasons I really like Mark Elias, and I'm taking the time to actually watch this with all y'all, because what he's talking about right now, he's breaking it down into layman's terms, because this is a 5-alarm fire. This is a veteran telling you this.
Where it is then based on a full evidentiary.
Let's say that Trump loses this case in the district court in California, and he opts to appeal it to the appeals court. Does he shoulder some risk by virtue of appealing this thing? Because once you appeal it, and if they rule also in Newsom's favor, then all of a sudden you have precedent, and that can apply to, if he tries to deploy the military in Milwaukee and Detroit and Philadelphia and Atlanta and any of these other swing states as we head toward, the 2026 and 2028 elections, where Trump would obviously want some good precedent to help him deploy these troops. But now if you have bad precedent that prevents the deployment of these troops, that would serve as a huge impediment to him.
Yeah, so we have seen Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice play a lot of gamesmanship here. They, in some cases, have clearly either not appealed or have slow-walked their appeal for precisely the reason you say. So is it possible that Donald Trump, if he loses the trial court, says, you know what, I'll just pull the troops out of L.A., I'll say I don't need them there right now, I'll pull the National Guard out right now, say I don't need them there right now, and then moot this case, say basically this case ends at the trial court, all over, and then I can deploy them back in LA, by the way, but I can deploy them in other cities and back in LA some later date and say, well, that first case is not precedent because that was a different set of facts and It was only the trial court.
I like that he's able to do that, sort of look down the future, look down the pike of the future with the mentality that somebody who's been mentored by Roy Cohn would think of this kind of legal, situation, to be able to use gamesmanship like that. It's important that there's people who can study evil and learn how to not only use its tactics against it, but predict its moves ahead of time. You would not even believe how many people are just mesmerized these days, especially all the horrible, dark space right-wingers who are just mesmerized by Goebbels because they couldn't believe that somebody could use lies so efficiently just by being a ridiculously simple messenger who can take the same lie and amplify it and amplify it and amplify it and turn it into dogma just with simple messages, because the idea of propaganda is to never ever be complicated. If you're explaining, you're losing.
Right. Like we've watched in a variety of arenas where it's clear the Trump administration is not eager to take these cases up on appeal. On the other hand, in other cases, we've seen them want to, fast track these to the U.S. Supreme Court because they think they can get a favorable ruling. I don't know where they'd line up here. It would not shock me, given how weak their argument is in L.A., that they wouldn't actually pull back and not want to appeal, and they'd actually pull the troops out, and they'd do everything I just said, because if from their standpoint, they may want the DC case actually to go up because their facts there are better. Like the fact is the law is better in District of Columbia. It's not necessarily the facts are better. The law is better because it's a federal city. It's not a state. There isn't a governor.
But for that exact reason, wouldn't that not be an analogous case to Donald Trump being able to deploy the military into the actual states? Like we know he has more latitude when it comes to DC because of the Home Rule Act, but that's not the case in any of the actual states across the country.
Right, which would, again, be a reason why if he decided to retreat in the California case, if he lost at the trial court, it might very well be to let the D.C. case advance because he's got better law, and then to tuck another state case after that rather than leading with a state case. I don't know. Putting myself into the head of Donald Trump is always painfully impossible.
Yeah.
Even trying to think this through the way Pam Bondi might think about it is impossible because Pam Bondi is just the mouthpiece and the puppet of Donald Trump.
Right. Well, look, I mean, first of all, there is hardly any coverage on this ongoing case that's happening in California, and the downstream effects of if Trump wins and if Trump loses in this case in California are going to be cataclysmic here, especially as it relates to the 2026 election. You have been relentless in terms of covering this on your YouTube channel, Democracy Docket. Highly recommend for anybody who's watching right now, if you are not yet subscribed to Mark's YouTube channel, not only to get this good info.
Yeah, that's right. Go visit Democracy Docket because Mark Elias, he is, he's probably one of the best legal minds that we have out there when it comes to all this nonsense, which we need them because we got bullshit like Stephen Miller's America First Legal. By the way, did y'all see Gavin trolling Newsom trolling Stephen Miller by sending him a birthday card with Voldemort with a fucking party hat on that says, "Happy birthday, Stephen." You're watching ViperTV. Stick around. We're not going anywhere.
Vladimir Putin is a dictator, a war criminal, a murderer responsible for slaughtering thousands of Ukrainian civilians and causing death and destruction around the world. He's silenced dissent in his country, erased people from history, poisoned journalists, and imprisoned opponents. Every American president from Harry Truman to Barack Obama and Joe Biden have stood up against Soviet and Russian dictators. Every American president except one.
I think Putin's been a very strong leader for Russia. I think in terms of leadership, he's getting an A.
As president, Donald Trump shared our vital security secrets with Russia. Even after leaving office, Trump, sitting in Mar-a-Lago with stolen American intelligence files, had long, secret calls with Putin. What are they talking about? What is he giving Putin? What secrets has he shared? What has he promised the Russian dictator?
Do you have a relationship with Vladimir Putin, a conversational relationship?
I do have a relationship.
Trump puts Russia first, not America. He's not just wrong, he's dangerous. Donald Trump won't stand up to Vladimir Putin, so it's up to all of us to stand up to Donald Trump.
And where's the lie? That's what I want to know.
Sneaky fucking Russian.
That's right. I think Cousin Avi said it best. If you've ever seen Snatch, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, why do I say sneaky fucking Russians? Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it is ridiculously beyond apparent that there's some sort of compromise when it comes to this nonsense. Because even if he acts like he's playing nice with Zelensky, well, just look at this shit right here. Right? Zelensky's refusal to surrender has got Trump allocating the Vance team to pull all levers to rip apart the Ukrainian government. Like, you notice, like, all the lies consistently from the right wing being like, they're funneling money to Zelensky. All of these fucking Russian talking points because J.D. Vance's team was on the line and wanted to set up a call. Ukraine's ambassador in the UK and formerly the commander-in-chief of the army and the U.S. vice president, had been instrumental in provoking the confrontation between Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office. Remember the whole, like, why didn't you say thank you bullshit from his perch on an adjacent sofa? What, an ex-lover? Now Vance and others in Trump's orbit were apparently sounding out potential alternatives to the troublesome Zelensky, and Vance's team tried various diplomatic and other channels to get through. But after consultation, the chief of staff refused to take the call. It's almost like they're owned by Russia. Why does it seem that they're owned by Russia? Why does it seem so much like that? Well, I mean, we all know that the Russian game of compromise is just how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and show you this little example real quick right here. Let's take a look at these gentlemen. Their shirts say, "I would rather be Russian than a Democrat." Why do they say that kind of thing? Well, maybe this news report right here will maybe shine a light on that. Let's take a look.
Over the last decade, we've charted Russian propaganda efforts to affect elections here in the U.S. and overseas. Those multi-layered campaigns are also a key part of the Russian war against Ukraine.
Russian President Vladimir Putin tries to portray himself and Russia as defenders of Christian and so-called traditional values. And as special correspondent Simon Ostrovsky tells us, those arguments have found an eager audience within certain sectors of American politics.
Украинской православной церкви подожгли в Николаевской области. Кадры пожара появились в соцсетях.
This church burned down more than 10 years ago in a remote Russian village on the border with Kazakhstan. But since the February 2022 invasion of Ukraine, the video has reappeared all across the Russian internet. Official sources are falsely claiming it shows a church in Ukraine with the accusation that Kyiv is destroying churches and going after priests and parishioners across the country. Although the story is untrue, the message that Ukraine is fighting against Christian values has turned into a powerful narrative used to justify the war to the Russian public. Even the head of the Russian Orthodox Church calls the fighting a holy war and sends Russian soldiers off to battle with a promise of salvation.
But the story about a war against Christianity isn't just for Russians. It was designed for export to their Orthodox neighbors, to disillusioned Europeans, and increasingly to...
You know, you really can get the rubes to do about anything just by using religion as both a sword and a shield. You know, I mean, in the dark spaces, they constantly use the whole, like, Christ is king thing, which is just their way of saying that, you know, they believe in the whole idea of Deus Vult. If you don't know what that is, I did a YouTube video way back, and it's called Deus Cult. So go ahead and look that one up. But what the whole idea is being able to use the idea of religion as a weapon is not only something that fascists have always done, but also the idea of the second coming of Christ, where he's going to be, you know, wielding a sword. And this sect of basement dwelling, just fart sniffing assholes who seem to think that a failed Australian painter is some kind of beacon of fortitude and moving forward into the future. They have no problem always quoting Bible verses, like Pete Hegseth, for example, in the intro to his own book, is quoting Bible verses to justify the idea of Deus Vult. Now, I'm really fucking tired of fairy tales dictating what people's reality in and out are, but I suppose that you can always find some kind of rube that you can say that what you're doing is a holy war, and they'll sign right up as fast as they can.
Americans who see in it a reflection of their own culture wars and grievances.
Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is a war on Christianity. The Ukrainian government is attacking Christians. The Ukrainian government is executing priests. Russia is not doing that. They're not attacking Christianity. As a matter of fact, they seem to be protecting it.
Especially within the MAGA movement, Moscow is no longer the old adversary. It's an anti-woke, anti-LGBTQ defender of Western civilization, a spiritual superpower. Here are former Trump campaign strategist Steve Bannon and Blackwater founder Eric Prince on Bannon's show.
Putin ain't woke. He is anti-woke.
The Russians, people still know which bathroom to use.
They know how many genders are there in Russia?
2.
Recent polls show that views on Russia are shifting.
I will never completely understand why conservatives are obsessed with the idea of other people's genitals. And apparently all of this propaganda all came to us from Russia.
Sneaky fucking Russia.
On the right, with Republicans more than twice as likely to see Russia as a partner of the U.S. While most Republicans and most Christians still support Ukraine, there's a subculture on the right and on the far left who are increasingly hostile, according to Mark Tooley, president of the Institute on Religion and Democracy.
Do you think it is worrisome, or do you think it's overwrought?
It is distressing that many people on the right are no longer adhering to traditional conservative values. By most measures, Ukraine seems to be more religiously practicing than Russia is, so it's a pretext or an excuse for opposing Ukraine. Certainly President Reagan and others from the 1980s would be overwhelmingly supportive of Ukraine today.
Here's one of Russia's most prolific propagandists, Vladimir Solovyov, interviewing notorious American conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
They don't believe in God. How can they believe in God and be for LGBTQ plus minus divide on something? LGBT is shit. It has nothing to do with God.
A lot of Americans admire Russia and admire you and admire...
You're right. It has nothing to do with God, because God isn't real. How people are born is real, but God isn't real. And 9 times out of 10, these motherfuckers who are pushing this shit so heavily are fucking kids. Prove me wrong. Hashtag not a drag queen looks like a fucking MAGA rally. Go back to, when Russian communism was the law of the land. Everybody in Stalin's administration were pedos. Everybody in Saddam's regime, pedos. Do you see what I'm getting at here? The reason they're so adamantly anti-LGBTQ is because they're fucking ashamed of something.
I hired Putin because you've been able to fight this off.
And among Americans who admire Putin, you can find the same fake footage of burning churches that were first circulated by the Russian state and its media outlets. The interesting thing is how on American podcasts and social media, the pro-Christian message is tailored specifically to advocate against America's support of Ukraine.
All of this talk of democracy is complete farce. So this ongoing predation, raiding of churches, which the Ukrainians have pioneered. And if you go to our website, you will see hundreds and hundreds of churches and parishioners crying and screaming and priests.
And instantly that hits because it shows them as victims. And if there's one thing that the religious right loves being, it's a victim of sorts.
Being beaten, and these are our allies. These are the people we're funding.
Canadian-American lawyer Robert Amsterdam has repeatedly made false claims about Ukrainians burning churches. He says President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is Jewish, is personally waging a war against Christians. He doesn't mention that Zelensky's wife is Ukrainian Orthodox or that the couple has baptized both of their children in the faith.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot. That's another reason they don't like Ukraine, because, you know, Zelensky is Jewish, and if there's one thing that the right can't stand, it's that. In fact, that's actually one of the reasons why the hardcore right are splitting from Trump, is because of his support for Israel. Like, they're even saying, why is it that we can, you know, why is it that burning the American flag is protected under the Constitution, but burning the rainbow flag or Israeli flag isn't? So, in the way that the left and the right both are agreeing simultaneously that what Israel is doing is bad, it's in two different camps leading to the same conclusion. It's going to get real weird because the extreme right is losing faith in Trump left and right.
Faith. One of Amsterdam's clients is the branch of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church which has been accused of maintaining close ties with Russia. Last year, it was ordered to merge with the independent Orthodox Church of Ukraine by a controversial law that went into effect this May. Catherine Kilaitis from the Institute of Orthodox Christian Studies says the law was motivated by legitimate national security concerns. And while the legislation may arguably have gone too far, it's been widely misrepresented by voices like Amsterdam to American audiences.
There are undoubtedly priests and bishops who are also acting as agents of the Russian state, who are involved in espionage. And the fact that they exist, even though they do not constitute the majority, does make the institution itself a danger.
Russia is fighting a spiritual war in order to win a geopolitical one. The fiction that Russia is a haven for white, straight, church-going families is smoothing the way for discussions about lifting sanctions on Russia.
Oh my God, do you remember when the American dad, the ultra-conservative MAGA dad, moved his family to Russia because they were white, straight, and Christian, and he got sent to the front line and he fucking died?
And cutting off aid to Ukraine. And in the polarized echo chambers of America's culture wars, that story is converting many.
Some of Russia's newest American fans may be surprised to learn that the fastest growing population in the country isn't Orthodox or even Christian, but Muslim. And despite the church's central role in politics and foreign policy, last year, the actual percentage of Orthodox believers hit a 20-year low, with less than 1% of the population attending Christmas services. For comparison, about 50% of Americans said they attended Christmas Mass last year. As previously reported on the NewsHour, Russian forces have targeted evangelical Christians in occupied Ukraine, shutting down Protestant and non-Orthodox places of worship. This repression follows a long-established pattern in Russia of using terrorism laws to shut down hundreds of Jehovah's Witness, Protestant, and other non-Orthodox congregations.
Gee, that looks familiar.
In the U.S., these stories just aren't getting the same kind of airtime. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Simon Ostrovsky in Washington.
Over $1 billion in propaganda a year. And you know what some of the best part is more than likely that a bunch of that money that they use on propaganda goes directly into the pockets of right-wing influencers.
Sneaky fucking Russian.
I'm telling you. Jesus Christ. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Got a lot of things covered today, and they're not the most pleasant of topics, but I do have a moment of zen for you before we head out. And I just want to let you know, gang, that, man, we got friends everywhere. We really do. So even though it might seem at times that it's a little dark, especially with the way things are going, just always know that if you have a phone, you can resist. I promise you. All we have to do is band together. Because we're strong. We believe in liberty. We believe in truth. And nobody can stop that, can they? Let's check this out.
Are you Immigration Customs Enforcement?
Yes, look, right here. See?
I want to see your warrant.
You are not authorized.
I want to see your warrant.
You're not off. Listen, you were arrested already in Essex County. You're going to get
Keep the door closed.
Okay,
keep the door closed. Do not answer the door. Keep your door closed. Immigration Customs Enforcement is in the neighborhood. If you are an immigrant, stay home. They do not have a warrant. They don't belong in your house, and they don't have a warrant. Immigration Customs Enforcement is in the neighborhood. Immigration Customs Enforcement is in the neighborhood. If you are an immigrant, stay home. Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Do not touch me. This is public property. This is public property. That's great.
You're on video.
Shame on all of you.
Okay.
Shame on every single one of you.
You're going on private property.
No, this is not. No, you don't have a warrant. You don't have a warrant. You don't belong here. Show me. Show me. Show me your warrant. Every single one of you is ICE. Show me your warrant. Shame. Shame. Stay in your house. Are you okay?
Yeah, no, he's not okay. He's under arrest.
Whoever's in the house, do not open the door. Whoever's in the house, do not open the door.
Hey, Ray.
They're not entitled to your private spaces. These people are thugs. They're abductors. Shame. I'm sorry, man.
You were arrested
I'm so
already.
sorry. Yes, I'm happy to. Shame on you. Shame on you. You're fascist. Shame on you.
Get out of here.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on all of you.
Yep.
Shame on every single one of you.
Absolutely.
Immigration Customs Enforcement is in the
Everybody
neighborhood.
knows. Everybody already knows.
Stay home. Do
Everybody
not
knows.
open your door. Shame. Look at them. What's your name? What's your name and badge number? Do not push me. Do not push me. Do not touch me. Do not have a constitutional right.
You're being recorded.
Great. I have a constitutional right to record. Shame on you. Shame on you. What's your name? What's your badge number?
Badge number?
Where's your badge number? Absolutely. You guys could be anything. We don't know. We want to see your badge number. We want to see your badge number. Shame. What's your name? And your brown shoe, dude. Dude, you know that. Why are you doing that?
Don't say that.
You be quiet. You too. You too. Shame on you. Do you have a family? Do you have a family? Do you have a family? Because all these people have. You have a constitutional right to record. You're totally okay. You have a constitutional. No, after public space, you have a right to record. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Don't worry. These people, they break the law all the time, and then they want to scare us. But we're not scared because we try to protect our community. You abduct people. Shame on you. Every single one of you, shame on you. Cannot believe it.
You cannot.
No, you can't either. You can't either. You can't either. You can't either. Make sure you do not open your door. Do not open your door. We'll be right here and a whole bunch of other people are coming out too. Don't worry. Do not open your door.
It is, but this guy hit a vehicle this morning. Okay? And he came back.
Show me your warrant. Show me your warrant. I have a right to see the warrant. No. This is Immigration Customs Enforcement. Where is your warrant? No. Show me. If you have it, you would show me. You don't have a warrant. You're just here abducting people. Yes, you are. You absolutely are. Yes, you are.
We're here for a reason. It's a targeted enforcement operation.
Show me your warrant. No warrant. No targeted. No warrant. No target. Yes, absolutely. Yes. No, I'm not going to tell him to come outside, but guess what? I want to see the warrant, and then we'll leave you alone. But we want to see it.
Oh, so you're going to leave.
I'm not going to leave. I'm going to make sure everything is done constitutionally. Show me your warrant. Show me your warrant.
I'm behind my face, but I don't want to roll over. I'm not. I know
You don't have a warrant. You don't have a warrant.
You have a warrant.
No, you don't. No, you don't have a warrant. No, you don't have a warrant. Nope. You show us the warrant. Show us the warrant. Show us the warrant. Show us the warrant. We want to see a judicial warrant. Yes,
I got
show
an
me.
order from
Show
a
me.
judge.
Yes, I want
I
to
have
see
an order from a
it. I
judge.
want to see it.
Are you going to leave?
I'm not going to
You're not
leave,
gonna leave.
but I'm
I don't care.
going
I
to
don't
record
want you
because
to
I have a constitutional right to record, even if you have a warrant. Because guess what? You abduct people because you abduct people even when you don't have a warrant, okay? So that means if you had a warrant and you pick somebody up, you would pick somebody else up. So of course I'm going to stay. We know about you. You're fascists. You're fascists. You're fascists. You're kidnappers. But we're not going to allow that to happen.
False information. That's you're ignorant.
Yep, we're not leaving. We're not leaving. We're going to protect our neighbors because we don't believe you. You don't have a warrant. You don't have a warrant. Absolutely not. Being in this country without documentation is not a criminal offense. It's a sin.
Just keep asking for that fucking warrant. I would have been consistently like, no, fuck you, fascist, show me the warrant. And I think that just needs to be the only thing that we say. We hold the camera up, ask for badge number, we ask to see the warrant. Because as she said, no, like they'll just say they have one and then they'll just abduct people. So know your rights. Know your rights. Know that it's a First Amendment guarantee that you can record in public spaces. Like I said, know your rights. Oh yeah. If you're new here, lovely to see you. We're going to do a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. You are watching ViperTV Live. Go to skipfransjr.net for podcasts.
Record player that, I could just spin records all the time.
I run into the bathroom and I'm covered in blood. Like I had put my tooth through my bottom lip.
For music. For gaming and pro-liberty game rants. That's skipfransjr.net. It was great getting to hang out with everybody today. I'm a little, like I said, man, I'm fired up right now because our World War II veterans did not fight fascism in order for us to elect fascists, especially ones who are led by the nose by fucking Russian influencers. Disgusting. Anyway, I'm glad we got all that off our chest. If you're new to Viper TV, make sure you give a like, give us a subscribe. And until then, later skaters.
Sneaky fucking Russian. Oh, it's a sneaky fucking Russian. That sneaky fucking Russian. I want to say that sneaky fucking Russian.
What else do you want? What else can you fucking show people? What else?